The morning didn't feel real. Naya woke up with the strange feeling that something had gone terribly wrong, the kind that sits in your chest before your mind can catch up. The room was quiet, sunlight filtered through sheer curtains, soft and almost gentle, as if the world outside hadn't changed at all. But she had. She knew that before she even opened her eyes. When she did, the ceiling above her made her freeze. This wasn't her room. The walls were wider apart. The air felt colder. The bed beneath her was larger, softer, not familiar in any way. Panic crawled up her spine as she pushed herself up, her heart pounding harder with every breath. Then she saw it. The paper. It lay on the bedside table like it belonged there. Perfectly straight. Her signature stared back at her. Nia's throat closed. Memories crashed into her all at once. His voice low and steady, the way the pen felt too light in her hand, the way she had laughed as if she were signing something meaningless. Here, take my soul. Her stomach twisted violently. No, she whispered, her voice breaking. No, no, no. She swung her legs off the bed, her body trembling as she stood. She was wearing clothes she didn't remember changing into. That realization made her feel exposed, stripped of control in a way that had nothing to do with fabric. The door opened. Alec walked in like the night before had never happened. Calm, clean, controlled. The sight of him stole the air from her lungs. "You're awake," he said. That was it. No hesitation, no guilt. Something in her snapped. "What did you do to me?" she demanded, her voice shaking despite her effort to stay strong. He closed the door behind him slowly, the quiet click echoing through the room. "I let you sleep." "You let me?" She laughed bitterly. "You let me sign my life away." He met her gaze without flinching. "You offered it." She stepped back as if his words had weight. "I was drunk. I wasn't thinking." "You were thinking clearly for the first time," he replied. "You were honest." "That doesn't make it right." "No," he agreed. "It makes it final." Her chest felt tight, like something invisible was pressing down on her. "I want to leave." Alec didn't move. "You can," he said calmly. Hope sparked in her eyes for a split second. Then he continued. "But you won't." Her fists clenched. "You don't get to decide that." He stepped closer. The space between them vanished, and suddenly she was very aware of how small she felt standing in front of him. Not weak, just surrounded. "I didn't decide," he said quietly. "You did." She shook her head. "You knew I was breaking." "Yes." "And you still took it." His jaw tightened just slightly, the only crack in his composure. "I didn't take anything. I accepted what you were already ready to give." Tears burned her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "You don't own me," she whispered. Alec's gaze darkened. "I don't need to," he said. "You're still here." Silence stretched between them, thick and suffocating. She wanted to scream, to run, to undo everything, but instead, her voice came out small. "What happens now?" He looked at her for a long moment, as if memorizing her expression, the fear, the anger, the defiance still clinging to her like armor. "Now," he said, "you stop pretending this was a mistake." Her heart sank. "You wanted purpose," he continued. "You wanted power. You wanted to stop feeling empty." His eyes never left hers. "I am all of that." Something twisted painfully inside her. "And if I say no?" she asked. He stepped even closer, lowering his voice. "Then you'll say it every day," he said. And every night, you'll still come back?" Her breath trembled. She hated how right it sounded. Alec straightened, turning towards the door. "Get dressed," he said. "Breakfast is ready." He paused, his hand resting on the doorframe. "You belong here now," he added, not as a threat, but as a fact. Then he left. Naya stood alone in the room, her heart racing, her thoughts tangled and heavy. The contract still sat on the table, and no matter how much she wanted to deny it, something inside her already knew. Last night didn't trap her, it claimed her. What belonging felt like breakfast was already set when she walked into the dining room. That alone unsettled her. Everything looked normal, too normal. Fresh food, quiet staff moving in and out without looking at her for too long, sunlight pouring in through tall windows. No chains, no locked doors, no raised voices. Alec sat at the head of the table, reading something on his phone, as if this were just another morning, as if he hadn't rewritten her life the night before. "Sit," he said without looking up. She stopped in her tracks. Her first instinct was to refuse, to prove something to herself, to remind him she still had a will of her own, but her body betrayed her. She sat. The chair felt heavier than it should have, like once she settled into it, getting up would take effort. Alec finally looked at her then, slow and deliberate, his gaze lingering on her face longer than necessary. "You didn't eat last night," he said. "That's not your concern." A corner of his mouth lifted, not a smile. Something colder. "Everything about you is my concern now." Her fingers tightened around the edge of the table. "You keep saying that like it's normal." "It is," he replied. "For me." Silence stretched between them again, but this time it felt different. Charged, like a wire pulled too tight. She pushed her plate away. "I want my phone." "You have it." She froze. "Then why does it feel like I don't?" Alec leaned back slightly, studying her like a problem he already knew the solution to. "Because you're realizing freedom isn't just about walking away." Her chest tightened. "You're watching me?" "Yes." The honesty in his voice sent a chill down her spine. "How?" she asked quietly. "Every way that matters." Her appetite vanished completely. "That's not a protection. That's control." He stood then, slowly, deliberately. The chair didn't scrape the floor. It never did when he moved. He walked around the table until he was standing behind her. She felt him before she saw him. His presence pressed into her back, close enough that she could feel the warmth of him, the steady rhythm of his breathing. "You confuse the two," he said softly, "because you've never had either without pain." Her throat tightened. "You think control means harm," he continued, "but I kept you alive when you wanted to disappear. I gave you direction when you had nothing left but rage." His hand came down on the back of her chair, trapping her there without touching her. "And now that you have no enemy to chase," he murmured, "you're afraid to stand still." She turned her head slightly, just enough to look at him. "You don't get to be my purpose." His eyes darkened. "I already am." That was when it hit her. Not like fear, but like understanding. He didn't need to cage her. He had built himself into the center of her life so completely that removing him felt like tearing something vital out of her chest. "I hate this," she whispered. "I know," he said, "and you don't care." Alec bent closer, his voice dropping to something dangerous and intimate. "I care enough to let you hate me instead of yourself." Her breath shook. "That's the difference," he added. "And that's why you'll stay." She stood abruptly, the chair scraping loudly this time. "I need air." He stepped back, giving her space instantly. "Go," he said. "Anywhere inside the property." She looked at him sharply. "And outside?" His gaze held hers, steady and unyielding. "Not yet." She walked away before he could say anything else, her steps quick, heart racing, thoughts spiraling. But even as she pushed open the doors leading to the courtyard, even as the fresh air filled her lungs, she felt it, that invisible thread, tight, unbreakable, and pulling her right back toward him. The lie she chose. That night, Nia didn't sleep. She lay on the bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet hum of the house, every sound too clear, too sharp. Somewhere down the hallway, a door closed softly. Footsteps passed. Then silence again. He never needed to be loud to remind her he was everywhere. Her chest rose and fell slowly as her thoughts tangled into something darker than fear. Running hadn't worked. Fighting hadn't worked. Begging hadn't worked. Alec didn't stop her because she resisted. He stopped her because he expected it. That realization settled heavy in her mind. He wasn't holding her by force. He was holding her by certainty, by knowing her every move before she made it, every reaction before she felt it. If she wanted to leave, she couldn't fight him. She had to outthink him. Nia turned onto her side, pulling the blanket closer, as if that small movement could protect her from the truth forming in her mind. He trusts no one, she thought. That's his weakness. Alec controlled her because he believed she was unpredictable, because he watched her like someone waiting for a blade behind their back, because he expected rebellion. What if she took that away? What if she became exactly what he wanted her to be? The idea made her stomach twist. Stay, smile, obey. Let him believe she had stopped fighting. Let him believe she had accepted her place. Her fingers curled into the sheets. She hated how smart the plan felt. She hated that it required patience, that it required lying with her whole heart, that it meant standing close to him without flinching, meeting his eyes without defiance, letting him think he had finally won. I'll give him certainty, she decided. So he stops watching every breath I take. Once he relaxed, once the walls lowered, once the guards stopped tracking her steps, she would disappear. A quiet knock sounded at her door. Her heart jumped, but she forced her face into calm before answering. Come in. Alec stepped inside. He didn't ask permission. He never did. His gaze swept over her, sharp and assessing, like he was already measuring her thoughts. She kept her posture loose, her expression neutral. No anger, no fear. Something flickered in his eyes. You didn't try to leave, he said. It wasn't a question. Nia shook her head slowly. I realized something. He waited. I'm tired of running, she said quietly. It only makes things worse. Silence stretched between them. Alec studied her like a puzzle that had just changed shape. And, he prompted. She met his eyes. This time, she didn't look away. I'm here, she said. I'm not going anywhere. The words tasted like ash, but she swallowed them anyway. For a long moment, he didn't move. Then he stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the weight of him again, the gravity she was pretending not to resist. You're learning, he said softly. Her heart pounded, but she nodded. I want peace. Alec's hand lifted, hesitated, then brushed lightly against her hair. Just once. A test. She didn't flinch. Something dangerous settled into his expression. "Good," he said, "because if you stay..." His fingers slid down, stopping just at her shoulder. I stopped tightening the grip. He turned and walked out, leaving the door open behind him. Naya exhaled only after he was gone. Her hands trembled violently now, the act finally cracking. She pressed her palm against her chest, feeling her heart race. "Trust me," she thought bitterly. "That's exactly what I need you to do." Because this time, she wouldn't run blindly. This time, she would wait. And when she left, he wouldn't see it coming. The name she wasn't supposed to say. Trust was a slow thing. Naya learned that quickly. Alec didn't loosen control all at once. He never would. But over days, then weeks, the pressure eased in ways so subtle they almost felt imagined. Fewer eyes following her through the halls. Fewer questions about where she was going inside the property. His presence still heavy, still constant, but no longer pressing down on her every breath. She played her part well. She stopped arguing, ate when he expected her to eat, worked without resistance, met his gaze without challenge. When he spoke, she listened. When he watched, she stayed still. And slowly, dangerously, he began to believe her. That was when she reached for the one thread she had buried deep inside herself. Leo. It happened late at night, when the house had settled into its false calm. She sat on the edge of her bed, phone in her hand, staring at the screen like it might explode if she touched it. She hadn't contacted him in over a year. She didn't even know if she could. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, heart hammering so hard she was afraid it would give her away. If he's gone, if Alec moved him too far, if this message is seen, every thought screamed danger. Still, she typed just one word. "Naya, are you safe?" She waited. Minutes passed, each second stretched tight, unbearable. She almost locked the phone and shoved it away when it buzzed in her hand. "Leo? Nia?" Her breath left her in a shaky rush. Tears burned her eyes, sudden and sharp. "Nia, I can't talk long. Nia, I need help." The response came slower this time. "Leo, where are you?" Her fingers froze. She couldn't tell him the truth, not fully, not yet. "Nia, I'm with him. Nia, I'm not hurt, but I'm not free." There was a long pause. "Leo? I knew it. Leo, I've been trying to find a way back to you." Her chest tightened painfully. "Nia, you can't come near me. Nia, he watches everything." Another pause. Longer. "Leo, then why message me?" She swallowed hard, forcing herself to type the word she had been afraid to admit even to herself. "Nia, because I can't escape alone." The phone felt heavy in her hand, like it carried all the risk she had been pretending not to feel. "Leo, tell me what you need." Her eyes flicked to the door instinctively, even though it was closed. "Naya, not now. Nia, I need time. Nia, I'm making him trust me." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "Leo, that's dangerous." A bitter smile tugged at her lips. "Nia, so is staying." She lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling as she typed. "Nia, I'll signal when it's time. Nia, one chance, no mistakes." Seconds passed. Then, "Leo, I'm with you, whatever it takes." Her chest tightened in a way that hurt. She closed her eyes for just a moment, letting herself breathe. When she opened them, another message appeared. "Leo, but Nia, be careful. Leo, men like him don't lose what they think is theirs." Her fingers trembled slightly as she locked the phone and slid it under her pillow. She lay there in the dark, heart racing, thoughts sharp and dangerous. For the first time since the contract, She had a plan, and for the first time, she understood the real risk. Escaping Alec wasn't just about leaving a place. It was about surviving what he would become once he realized she had never stopped trying to be free. The moment he planned forever. The house was unusually quiet that morning. Alec noticed it the moment he stepped out of the bedroom. Not the empty kind of quiet, the kind that felt held together by expectation, like something was waiting to happen. He adjusted his cufflinks slowly, eyes drifting toward the far end of the hallway, where Naya's door stood slightly open. She was awake. He could always tell. She stood there when he reached the living area, leaning lightly against the doorway, dressed simply, hair loose around her shoulders. Calm, still, no tension in her posture, no challenge in her eyes. Good. "You'll stay inside today?" he said, fastening his watch. His voice was even, casual, the voice he used when he was certain. "I know," she replied. He glanced at her then, really looked. She hadn't argued in weeks, hadn't questioned his decisions. She moved through the house like she belonged there now, not like a prisoner, not like someone counting exits. Exactly how he wanted her. She stepped closer, close enough to reach him. Her fingers lifted, smoothing the crease in his coat with an intimacy that made something warm settle low in his chest. "I'll be here when you get back," she said softly. The words landed deeper than he expected. Alec's hand closed around her wrist, steady, possessive, his thumb brushing over her pulse. It was fast, nervous, still afraid then. He leaned down, his voice dropping. "Say it again. I'm not going anywhere." For the briefest moment, something unguarded crossed his face, satisfaction edged with something dangerously close to relief. "Good," he murmured, "because I don't like coming home to empty rooms." He released her, picked up his phone, and walked out without another word. But as the car pulled away from the gates, Alec's thoughts weren't on the meeting. They were on her. On the way she'd looked at him, the way she'd said the words without flinching, on how quiet the house had felt, not hollow, but settled. He reached into his coat pocket and felt a small velvet box there. The ring was simple, expensive, but understated. Something permanent without being loud. Something that said, "This is done." He hadn't planned to tell her today, not directly. He imagined coming home, finding her exactly where she said she'd be. Maybe sitting by the window, maybe reading, maybe waiting without realizing she was waiting. He imagined standing behind her, slipping the ring onto her finger before she could ask questions. Surprising her, claiming what was already his, this time openly. The thought stayed with him through the meeting, through signatures and negotiations and quiet power plays, through men who feared him and alliances that bent under his name. For once, Alec wanted to go home early. The house greeted him with silence, not the quiet from before. This one was wrong. He stepped inside, removing his coat slowly, eyes scanning the space. No movement, no footsteps, no presence lingering in the air. "Nia?" he called. Nothing. He walked deeper into the house, the kitchen, the living room, the corridor. Her room? The bed was untouched, too neat. His gaze snapped to the side table. Empty. The space where the contract had been kept was bare. Something cold slid down his spine. He turned sharply, moving through the house now, faster. Opening doors, checking corners, calling her name again. Once, then twice. Still nothing. That was when he saw it. The side exit. Open. Alec stopped. The world narrowed to a single, brutal point of clarity. Slowly, deliberately, he reached into his pocket and pulled out the velvet box. Opened it. The ring caught the light. For a moment, he stared at it without blinking. Then his hand closed around it. Hard. So she had lied. The calm drained from his face, replaced by something darker, colder. Not rage. Rage was loud. This was possession realizing it had been challenged. He exhaled slowly, eyes lifting, mind already moving ahead of the moment. She ran, he said quietly, to the empty room. A pause, then almost to himself. She thinks I didn't see this coming. He turned, pulling out his phone, already issuing orders as he walked. The house behind him felt different now, not empty, provoked. And somewhere in the city, a girl who had just tasted freedom had no idea what it would cost her, because Alec didn't chase out of anger. He chased to reclaim, and he always did. When the world lost its center, the house became a war room within minutes. Alec stood in the middle of it, unmoving, phone pressed to his ear, eyes empty in a way no one there had ever seen before. Men filled the space around him, his most trusted, his most feared, but none of them spoke unless spoken to. The air was thick with tension, sharp enough to cut. "She's gone," he said flatly. That was all. Screens lit up, names were called, locations pulled, cars dispatched. The city woke under his command. But Alec didn't sit. He didn't pace. He didn't shout. He stood there like something vital had been torn out of him, and his body hadn't caught up yet. "Lock down everything," he ordered. "Cameras, roads, stations, airports. I want eyes everywhere." A man hesitated. "Sir, if she's planned this well?" Alec turned slowly. The look on his face silenced the room. "Find her," he said, his voice low, fractured in a way it had never been before. "Or don't come back." No one questioned him again. He ended the call and stared at the wall, his reflection faint in the glass. For the first time in years, his thoughts were not sharp or controlled. They were loud. She lied. She smiled at me. She said she wasn't going anywhere. His chest tightened painfully. The ring was still in his pocket. He pulled it out again, opening the box with fingers that were no longer steady. The diamond glinted cruelly under the lights. "I was going to give you forever," he whispered. The words felt useless in the empty room. Something broke then. Alec slammed the box onto the table, the sound echoing like a gunshot. 24 hours, he said sharply, his voice carrying through the house. "Whoever finds her in 24 hours gets $100,000. From me." Heads snapped up. "Alive," he added. "Untouched." His jaw tightened. "She's mine." The orders flew faster after that. Borders flagged. Contacts activated. Every shadow in the city was pulled tighter. Every secret stirred. But beneath it all, beneath the precision and power, there was desperation. He moved through the house like a ghost, stopping where she used to sit. The chair she liked. The window she stared out of. The hallway where she had once waited for him, pretending to belong. The silence pressed down on him, unbearable. He realized then how much of the house had been built around her presence. How quiet it felt without her breathing in it. She was supposed to stay, he muttered to no one. For the first time since his father's death, since power had hardened him into something unbreakable, Alec felt it. Loss. Not of control, of purpose. She hadn't just run. She had taken something with her. The one thing that made the world feel steady. The one thing that made the violence, the blood, the deals worth enduring. "She was my reason," he said softly, fingers curling into a fist. "My only one." His phone buzzed. No news. His grip tightened. Desperation crept into his voice when he spoke again, raw and unguarded. "Find her," he said. "Please." The word stunned the room into stillness. Alec never begged, but now the city was his enemy. Time was against him, and the woman who had become his entire center was slipping farther away with every second. And if he didn't find her soon, he wasn't sure what he would become without her. The one call she shouldn't have made the city did not give her up easily. For hours, then days, Alec tore through every corner of it with a precision that bordered on madness. Cameras were reviewed until eyes burned, calls were traced, accounts watched. His men moved like shadows, faster than rumors, quieter than fear. Nothing. No sightings, no leads, no trace of her breathing in the same world as him. And with every dead end, something inside Alec tightened further. He stopped sleeping. He stopped eating. The ring stayed in his pocket, a constant weight against his chest, like a reminder that the future he had planned was slipping through his fingers. She was careful, smarter than he had expected, too smart. Then, late into the night, when even desperation had started to feel hollow, the call came in. Not from the streets, not from the cameras, from a place that made him go still. "Sir," his tech head said quietly, disbelief threading his voice. "We traced a call." Alec straightened slowly. "Where?" A pause. "A residential landline outside the city, old network, no mobile signal involved." Alec's lips parted slightly, then they curved, softly, dangerously. He laughed. It wasn't loud, it wasn't sudden. It was low and slow, like something clicking perfectly into place. "She used a house phone," he murmured, almost fondly. "After all this time." His head tilted as if he could already see her there, standing somewhere unfamiliar, heart racing, thinking she was safe because she wasn't holding a device he controlled. "She got careless," he said, "because she misses him." The laughter left his face, replaced by something cold and bright. "Trace it completely," he ordered. "I want the house, the road, the neighbors, the exits. I want to know how she breathes there." "Yes, sir." Alec turned away, walking toward the window. The city stretched out beneath him, glowing and unaware. "She didn't escape," he said calmly. "She paused." His phone buzzed again minutes later. Coordinates, a location, confirmation. There she was. His fingers curled slowly, satisfaction sliding through him like a dark promise. "So this is where you ran?" he whispered, eyes glinting. "Right into another cage." He laughed again then, fuller this time, the sound sharp and unsettling to everyone in the room. "She thought trust was her weapon," he said. "But loyalty always leaves a trail." He slipped his coat on, movements unhurried now, controlled, certain. "Prepare the car," he said. "I'll handle this personally." As he stepped toward the door, his smile lingered. "She came back to me," Alec added softly. "She just doesn't know it yet." And somewhere far away, in a quiet house with a ringing phone gone silent, Naya's freedom was already collapsing, because the worst kind of trap wasn't built with walls, it was built with familiarity. And Alec had just closed the door. The highway lights blurred past the windows as the car sped forward. Nia sat in the back seat, hands clenched tightly in her lap, every muscle in her body tense. The airport signs had started to appear, blue boards glowing like promises in the dark. Each one made her heart beat faster. Almost there, just a little longer. Leo sat in the front, eyes fixed on the road, knuckles white around the steering wheel. The engine hummed steadily beneath them, the sound of movement, of escape. Then, the headlights appeared, black, familiar, too close. Naya's breath caught in her throat. "No," she whispered. The car behind them surged forward, engine roaring like it had been waiting for this moment. It moved with terrifying confidence, cutting through traffic as if the road itself bent for it. Leo glanced into the mirror once, his face drained of color. "It's him," he said. Panic flooded her veins. "Go faster?" He did, but it didn't matter. The black car pulled alongside them, close enough that Naya could see the outline of the man behind the wheel. Calm, focused, untouched by urgency. Alec. He didn't chase like someone desperate. He chased like someone reclaiming what was his. Suddenly, his car surged ahead, swerving sharply in front of them. Tires screeched as he slammed on the brakes. Leo cursed, fighting the wheel. The car came to a violent stop. Silence crashed down, heavy and absolute. Naya's heart hammered so loud she was sure Alec could hear it from where he stood. The driver's door of the black car opened. Alec stepped out slowly. He adjusted his coat like this was a casual meeting, not the end of her escape. His eyes lifted and locked onto the car instantly, onto her. He walked toward them, footsteps measured, unhurried. Each step felt like a countdown. He stopped directly in front of the hood, forcing them to look at him. His gaze flicked briefly to Leo, sharp and dismissive, then back to her. The window slid down. Alec leaned forward slightly, resting his hands on the glass, his face close enough now that she could see the faint smile tugging at his lips. "Did you have fun playing this little game?" he asked calmly. Naya's throat tightened. She couldn't speak. "I told you," he continued, his voice low, steady, carrying more weight than a shout ever could. "You're not going anywhere." His eyes softened just enough to make it worse. Not angry, certain. He straightened, stepping back and gesturing once with his hand. "Get out of the car." Her chest felt like it was caving in. The airport signs glowed in the distance behind him, cruel and unreachable. Freedom had been right there. And now she was standing face to face with the man she had tried to escape. And he looked like a man who had finally found what he'd lost. Alec didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten. He didn't argue. He simply opened the back door of her car and reached for her. Nia tried to move, tried to step back. But the moment his hands touched her, firm and unyielding, her strength drained away. He lifted her effortlessly, one arm under her knees, the other around her back, holding her like she weighed nothing at all. "Put me down," she whispered, her voice breaking. He didn't answer. She could feel his heartbeat through his chest, steady, controlled, as if he hadn't just chased her across the city, as if nothing had shaken him, as if she hadn't tried to disappear from his life. Leo started to speak. Alec's gaze flicked to him once. That was enough. He carried Naya to his car and placed her gently inside, adjusting her seatbelt himself. His touch was careful, almost reverent, which somehow made it worse. Then he closed the door. The sound echoed like a final sentence. The drive was silent. Naya stared out the window, tears slipping down her face without sound. The city faded behind them, replaced by unfamiliar roads, darker and quieter. The house they arrived at wasn't the one she knew. This one stood alone, surrounded by high walls. No nearby lights, no neighbors, no visible exits. Alec carried her inside again. No hesitation. No resistance. The doors closed behind them, locking with a soft, final click. "This place," he said quietly, "has no cameras you can reach, no phones you can use, no exits you can test." Her chest tightened. "So this is it?" He looked down at her, expression unreadable. "This is where you're safe," she laughed weakly. "From who?" "From leaving," he answered honestly. The room he took her to was dimly lit, calm, almost peaceful. No bars, no restraints, just space, empty, deliberate space. He sat on the bed and pulled her into his arms, holding her against his chest. She resisted at first, pushing weakly, but exhaustion won. Fear gave way to something heavier. She cried then, silent tears soaking into his shirt. Alec's arms tightened around her, one hand cradling the back of her head, fingers threading gently through her hair. His breathing slowed, grounding, steady, like he was anchoring himself through her. "You don't understand," he murmured into her hair. "When you left, everything went quiet," she trembled. "You're my peace," he continued softly, "the only thing that makes the noise stop." Her body sagged against him, too tired to fight anymore. Her eyes burned, her limbs heavy. Alec lay back, keeping her close, his chin resting lightly against her head. He didn't move, didn't sleep right away. He stayed awake, holding her like something fragile, like something that, if released even for a second, might disappear again. Naya's breathing slowly evened out despite herself. She fell asleep in his arms, not because she felt free, but because somewhere deep inside her, her body remembered how to rest when he was near. And Alec closed his eyes, finally calm. He had her back, and this time, there would be no road left to run.